Welcome to Hack the Entrepreneur, the show which reveals the fears, habits, and inner battles behind big-name entrepreneurs and those on their way to joining them. Now here is your host, John Naster.
Hey, this is Hack the Entrepreneur. Thank you so much for joining me again today. Before we get started, I do want to remind you I'm looking for questions. I've got quite a few already in my inbox, but I'm looking for more. I'm going to start doing specific episodes that we're calling tentatively, because I've actually had some better names sent to me via Twitter and email, but tentatively we're calling it the HTE mailbag. So I want to answer your questions about marketing, content, product creation, entrepreneurship, mindset. Any question you have, drop it into my inbox, John at Hack the Entrepreneur. Give me your name, your URL of your website if you want me to also mention that on the show, and I'll see if I can feature you on an upcoming episode. All right, here we go. My guest today is a writer, traveler, e-commerce expert, and an entrepreneur. He got started with building a landscaping business while still in high school, and then he ran it until going to college. While in college, he met his business partner and launched an e-commerce business called Portlight, which has sold over $20 million in products and has a team of 10 people currently running it. He is now the co-founder and CMO of FreeeUp, where my guest and his team enable companies to hire the top 1% of freelancers in e-commerce, virtual assistants, marketing, and web development. He also just released a brand new book called Free Up Your Business. Now, let's hack Connor Gillivan. All right, here's a question for you. Have you ever considered starting your own business or launching a startup? If the answer is yes, then you're probably going to want a great logo design as well as business cards and a website. This is where Design Crowd can help. Here's how it works. 4 simple steps. Step 1, visit designcrowd.com/hack and post a brief describing the design you need. For example, a brand new logo. Step 2, Design Crowd will then open your project to their 550,000 plus designers to respond. Step 3, within hours, you will receive your first design. And over the course of 3 to 10 days, a typical project will receive 60 to 100 different designs from designers around the world. The 4th and final step, all you need to do then is pick the best design, and the designers get paid. If you don't find a design you want, no problem. Design Crowd has a money-back guarantee. Crowdsourcing design on Design Crowd helps you access the collective creativity of hundreds of thousands of designers, and it will save you money, time, and help you find the best design possible for your budget. Right now, you can also get a very special offer from Design Crowd. Check out designcrowd.com/hack. That's DESINCROWD, designcrowd.com/hack for up to $100 off your very first project. We're back with another episode of Hack the Entrepreneur. And today we have a very, very special guest, Connor. Welcome to the show.
Hey John, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Oh man, it's gonna be a lot of fun, I think. So it's absolutely all my pleasure.
Completely agree.
Nice. What do you say? Should we just jump into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Connor, as an entrepreneur, can you tell me what is the one thing that you do that you feel has been the biggest contributor to your successes so far?
Absolutely. I think from my experience and from the companies I've been able to build, the thing that I'm best at is being able to build teams around myself that are as motivated as I am to reach the end goals of the company. So it's kind of been a theme that I've been working on over the past 7 years or so as I've built my first 2 businesses. And at first it was really hard for me. I had that entrepreneurial dilemma where I didn't love to push tasks or jobs off my plate. But over time, I saw the true impact that your business could make when you have other people around you that understand the vision of what you're trying to build and that are also just as good as the jobs and the roles that need to be fulfilled within the company. So I think my that major strength of mine is being able to recruit and bring those people together, put them into the right roles to succeed, and then also give them that look to the future so that they're motivated each day to keep pushing forward.
Wow. I think you nailed it when you said that sort of entrepreneurial sort of dilemma where you want to build things, but you're not necessarily good at sort of delegating them out to others. So let's sort of go into this a bit. Like, had you already sort of built businesses before and tried stuff and not been able to achieve this and not be able to put those people around you to sort of scale up and do what you wanted to do? And then you had to force yourself to do it? Or did this just kind of come innately to you and you've pushed it towards entrepreneurship?
Sure. So I have always been passionate about leadership. It's always been something I've been interested in. Even when I was younger, I played a lot of sports and I was just always interested by how you could lead a group of people towards a common goal and really inspire each other to keep moving forward. So the opportunity presented itself in terms of my entrepreneurial path while I was still in college, and I was working with my business partner to start our first company that was selling products on the Amazon marketplace. And we were getting into a place where we were doing a decent amount of volume, selling, close to maybe 100 products each day, and there were a good amount of tasks or responsibilities that were coming up on a day-to-day basis. And we put ourselves, or we found ourselves in a situation where we just couldn't do everything. And that was really when we were first forced to find other people that could help us along our path and allow us to not stay focused on operating the business, but stay more focused on growing the business. So that was first when I got into it, was when I was building that first business.
And you say business partner. Is this the same business partner throughout the companies?
That's correct. Yeah, his name is Nathan Hirsch. We were talking about it before. He was on your show about a year ago, and we've been working together for about 7 years now.
Wow. Obviously, I knew that Nathan is your partner in FreeeUp, your current company, but I didn't realize that he's been like you've had the same partner throughout this. You guys met in college?
Yeah, it was funny. We went to a school that was maybe 4 or 5 thousand people, so not too large, to the point where after a couple of years you kind of got to know everyone. And we were both in the business school, and our friendship and our business partnership really started just through a pretty simple instant message online. Nate was starting to look into selling products on Amazon, and he knew that I was also interested in building businesses and entrepreneurship. And he just reached out and asked if I'd be interested in working on it with him. And things just kind of sparked from there and took off. And we've continued to grow together and, become good friends, and then also become good business partners as well.
Interesting. And so from that message and from selling stuff on Amazon, obviously it's different. Years ago is different than it is now.
Mhm.
I mean, it's now it's just everywhere and people are talking about it all the time. But from that to like your next business to, I believe, is FreeeUp your third or your second business with Nathan?
Second business.
Second business. Okay.
Mhm.
Like what happened, or sort of the evolution of, like, say, a partnership? Let's get into this. Like how did you start to sort of define roles? Like, I mean, getting an instant message from a friend and being like, hey, I want to start selling this stuff on this website. Like, all right, sounds cool. We're in college. Why not? To turning
Right.
it like into real businesses. You know what I mean? Have you guys realized that you have like skill sets that help each other or benefit each other, or what is it? And how did these roles sort of fall into place?
Yeah. So I think we learned that over time. When we first started, we definitely didn't know that, but it was tough at first. It's definitely gone through like a maturity of how our relationship has built. When we first started, and still to this day, we're very complementary, but we also have different mindsets on certain things. And it was more dramatic when we were younger. So I was more of a long-term thinker. He was more of a short-term thinker. So we would battle a lot about, should we have plans for the business? What should we do next? How should we strategically approach this? Same deal in terms of content versus not having a focus on content. So where's the right balance there? So when we were first growing up and working together, we definitely had some clashes. But over time, as we were building these businesses, and learning lessons and failing along the way, we started to come up with more common beliefs that we have. And that's really what's led us to go ahead and start the second company. We do complement each other extremely well. I'm more of the marketer, advertising, content, kind of creative side, whereas Nate is a great person that runs the sales organization. He brings people into the team. He'll get them set up in systems and processes so that our operations are running really well. He's good at working with the accounting side of things. So we very much respect each other's skills and allow each other to thrive within those abilities.
Okay, now I'm confused. So he's like sort of the operations running that side and the sales, but your one thing is building teams.
Yeah, I could see where there's some confusion there.
Because I was like, it was funny because as you were saying it, and I kind of forgot about it because we got on in the conversation, but as you were saying that originally, I was like, I'm pretty sure he's CMO of this company and he's all about the marketing. It's like, all right. So.
Definitely. So I could see where there's a little confusion there. So Nate is really good at putting people into the roles. Like what I was saying, I'm very good at as well. I guess I would say my biggest thing is more of the inspiration and keeping people motivated. So whereas he is good at getting them very organized, I keep them engaged and inspired by where we're going and the goals that we're looking forward to in the next week, month, etc.
Okay, cool. So there is overlap between the roles in that way. Okay.
For sure.
So that's cool. Interesting. I'm fascinated by the fact of like, just sort of an evolution of the two of you into these companies and kind of finding your places amongst it and not especially being like from that methodical to like the short term sort of thinking and having to kind of meet in the middle and not kind of kill each other in the process.
Yeah, we saw it. It was definitely, like I said, it was definitely some learning curves that we had to go through. But in the end, we kind of saw it as it was almost like a perfect balance, right? Because if it had just been me, I may have been more too far in the clouds. If it had just been him, he may have not had enough of a look to see where he was going next. So we eventually came to the understanding that, hey, we really balance each other well and we bring ourselves to a good place in the middle where we can work together well.
Yeah, it's a cool understanding and it's probably super beneficial to both of you. Mm-hmm. So Connor, at the beginning, and we just discussed it again, your one thing is that building teams and sort of inspiring and bringing people around you. Every sort of like business expert now talks this 80-20 rule, right? You're supposed to find that 20% that you're good at and get you that 80% result. You're supposed to do what you're good at and delegate the rest. Mm-hmm. Can you now tell me, Connor, what's something that you're absolutely not good at in your business?
Sure. So that's where our relationship comes in. The one thing I'm not great at is one-on-one sales or direct sales with the actual customer or the client. So that's definitely not one of my strengths. And so I stay away from that as much as possible. I hand that off to Nate. I allow him to work with his team and handle that aspect of the company while I focus more on the creative side of things, the marketing, the advertising, those types of projects.
Interesting. So the marketing, you sort of bring the people in and then they can do the one-to-one sales.
Correct. Yep.
What do you guys use, or do you guys use like coaches and mentors within the company?
Sure. So I have a few mentors. When we first moved, so we live in Orlando, Florida, and when we first moved down here, a big focus of mine was trying to find some other entrepreneurs who had already built their own businesses and who are interested in helping others out, helping younger entrepreneurs. And so I have a couple of mentors that I'll meet pretty closely with, every month or so and kind of share with them the troubles that we're going through, and they give us some great advice on how to move things forward. So I've loved having mentors.
I love it. So you moved to Orlando, Florida with the idea that you want to find mentors to help you. How did you do this? Like, what was the process sort of you went through to track people down?
So I used LinkedIn a lot. What I was doing is I kind of created a demographic, or I guess like a profile of the person I was interested in. It was usually going to be someone who had already built their own business, was, maybe 10 to 20 years older than me, had a lot of good experiences, who was in the local area, and who I could find on LinkedIn. So I would find these people, I'd identify them, I would try to connect with them, I'd send them a personal message, explaining why I was reaching out to them and what I was interested in doing. And my biggest thing was I would just try to get in a one-on-one, in-person experience with them. So I would ask them to go out and grab lunch, or can I grab you a coffee, whatever the reason was. And not every person responded, but for the people that did, it ended up being really great conversations that I was able to learn from. And then my next ask was always, hey, this was a great conversation. I'd love to keep in touch. Do you have someone else that you know that you think would be a good fit for, helping me grow my businesses as well? And that one ask at the end of every conversation always helped, and it kind of spiraled to all these other people that I wouldn't have met just by finding people on LinkedIn.
Wow. I love that. It's almost like you added a viral sort of aspect to it. You find one person, track them down, have a good conversation, and then hopefully get to meet one or two other people from those people.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool. People are always so freaked out about this idea and this aspect of sort of finding those mentors but it's figuring out who it is kind of you want, not necessarily the specific person yet, but the qualities you would like in them. And then
Mhm.
we have the tools to find them. We just have to then actively, it's good because it seems like you took your weakness where you say the one-on-one sales. I mean, you kind of used it to find your own mentors.
Yeah, I guess the kind of it comes into I see it more as like the relationship building, right? So I wasn't necessarily trying to sell them something, but I was just trying to create a good relationship with that person. And I think that goes a long way when you're reaching out to people online, especially with how many inquiries people probably get on a daily basis through these different social media platforms.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
All right, so let's move to projects, Connor.
Mhm.
So projects is a loose term, but a project, let's say within FreeeUp at this point, I'm sure a ton of ideas come to you, and let's maybe work with one within marketing or something that you would have the more control over.
Mhm.
But ideas that come to you, first off, like, do they come from your team? Do you ask for them? But then or do they come personally from yourself? But once you get an idea, what's sort of the process, and whether that's just an internal gut process or a written process, but what's the process you go through to decide when a project is worth yours and your team's time, energy, and resources?
Awesome. So in terms of your first question, it's definitely a two-way street. I have a team of assistants working with me on the marketing advertising projects. And so, they're handling social media, Facebook ads. We have some ClickFunnels that we run. We have our blog that we run in a video series. So I have people who are helping me out manage those different aspects of our content and marketing. And so I'm always asking them for ideas. But then also, just as the leader of the team, I'm always trying to think of new ideas, whether it be about new content or other projects that could further engage people and get people to know what FreeeUp is up to. And so I think a good example that we could talk a little bit about is the project of writing and publishing a book through the FreeeUp platform. So this was an idea that myself and Nate, my business partner who we've been talking about, came up with about 6 or 7 months ago. It was after we were going through and starting to plan out the different content and marketing initiatives that we wanted to put out there. And this was going to be one of the bigger ones that would require more of my time and also require more commitment from the company to make sure that it launched well and we got it out to the right people. So my process when I'm dealing with any sort of new project is I'm someone who likes to really break it down. So I myself am a writer, so I have a journal where I would sit down and kind of focus in on what is the absolute purpose of this project. So what are we trying to achieve? Once this is completed, how is it changing the company? What is it doing to make us grow, to make us better? So really understanding that purpose first and seeing where it's going to take us. Then I like to break it down into how are we going to do it? So what are the steps that need to be taken to get there? For building the book, it's going to be, or we need to build out all the content that's going to be within it, within each of those chapters, what's going to be inside of there. And then what is the actual process to put it together, publish it, get it up on Amazon, and do all of these other steps to make sure that the project is going according to plan. And so the final step that I like to take is once I have it all laid out and I have an idea of how it's going to happen and the time associated with each of those steps, I then like to try to find people who I can involve in the project to take some things off my plate. Because of the size of this project in particular, it would be a good way for me to stay focused on what I do best. Like you were saying, I'm the one who's going to be writing the book. How can I involve other people to help me put together the right files for the different platforms, to put together a marketing campaign that will run through social media, to put together other advertising so that we can push it out to people not inside of our direct community. So I think that's a good example of what you were talking about.
Yeah, that totally is. So it's really sort of like what is the purpose, breaking it down in a journal, the steps of how you're going to do it, and then associating time with it, and then sort of spreading it out to the team. So with the book example, when you said you were sort of in the journal doing the how, like what has to be done, breaking it down, you said like what's going to be in the book. Like at that step, would you do that? Or was it kind of like, that this is going to be a task and you will get somebody else to do it? Or do you take those parts of it? Like, do you want it mapped out so thoroughly that you're going to do all that up front?
I like to map things out up front. I do. So, I mean, when I'm doing that process, one of my steps is going to have to be to map out the content. I might not do it there right on the spot, but that's going to be a checkbox I'm going to come back to if we decide to move forward with that project. And I would be the one that would lay out the content and try to organize the entire manuscript so that it was eventually good to be written out.
Excellent. And so now it seems like it was a fairly sizable project you guys undertook. Sort of what the purpose is. Do you also at that stage of the how sort of, do you impose sort of like success metrics to a project like this?
For sure. Yeah, I think that's super important. And with the steps that you create, so the action steps, what I like to do is I like to set deadlines, especially for projects, because it's important to be always pushing yourself towards a certain time when you can achieve something. And then also making sure that you kind of plan out those different steps, right? So let's say you have 20 steps to complete a project and you've gone through each and kind of imagined how much time it would take to complete each. I then like to break it down into my upcoming weeks so that I can realistically see if I spend this amount of time on it, it can be accomplished by this date and it will make this difference for the company. So I think that's an extremely important part too, is really breaking it down and making sure that you have it scheduled out so you understand when it's going to be completed.
Right. And then once it's completed though and put out there, the success metrics sort of knowing if you're going to like
afterwards,
not only if it was worth the effort creating it, but I'm sure that even if you take your chosen sort of marketing path for it first, and that comes back as not successful, I'm assuming you're not going to just dump the whole book because you've already spent all the time. You're just going to look at those metrics and create another sort of like path for marketing.
Yeah, that's a great question. So afterwards, once it's actually launched, so we have that set up now. We kind of have an ideal situation of how we would like the book to end up in terms of sales and in terms of our reach to our community and to people outside of the community. And we're very much people who run off trial and error. So we're going to try different methods within marketing to push the book out and to try to get people interested. And we're going to, like you said, look at those metrics. If it works, go ahead and keep pushing that forward. If it doesn't, take it back. Think of a new idea. Go ahead and test that. If it works, move it forward. And kind of repeat in that fashion until we find a good set of processes or a good set of strategies that are going to work well to push the content out to the right people.
I like it. And so with these projects like this, since this is sort of a marketing side of the project, this would have come from your team or from yourself. And then would like your partner, Nathan, have stayed sort of out of it at this point?
Sure. So he wouldn't have stayed totally out of it. I think that would be kind of a mistake, right? Because he also has a lot of knowledge, a lot of information that would be great to share with our community. So the way that he was involved most was when we were putting together the content for the book. Him and I were working very closely to put together the 50 secrets that are within the book and talk about stories from our history of working together that would be really good to bring that lesson to life for the person who's experiencing it. And then also in the stage where the book has actually been launched, I like to bring Nate back into the loop because he has the closest contact to our clients and to our workers. So he's going to be the one who can reach out to them, or when he's having conversations with them, talk to them about the book and sell them on the idea of adding this to their literature that they're reading to try to improve as an entrepreneur.
Nice. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We will get back to the book and you're going to get to sort of pitch it to the listener. But first let's get to like getting customers if we can.
Okay.
So let's go back to FreeeUp as the overall business. When you guys first launched FreeeUp, as you being the marketer, how did you go about getting your first customers?
Absolutely. So our strategy was kind of interesting with FreeeUp. We knew that we had a really strong foothold in e-commerce, and we also had this idea for creating a better online hiring marketplace specific for e-commerce business owners. That was really the core idea of where the business started, because we had been hiring probably over 100 people through platforms like Upwork and what used to be Odesk and Elance. And we just weren't loving the experience of posting a job, getting all of the people to apply, choosing the people to interview, interviewing them, and then having to decide on who is the best hire. And so we wanted to create this new platform, but we needed to be able to bring in customers at first and kind of test them on the platform and see if it was something they'd be interested in. And so the way we first got customers was we offered four different products pretty much. So we offered consulting services specific to e-commerce businesses. We offered Amazon classes, so classes that helped either new or experienced Amazon sellers make sure that they were following Amazon's seller policies and metrics correctly. And then we also offered more customized, specialized Amazon services. And then our last product that we offered was this idea of hiring vetted freelancers from us. We had a pool of about 30 to 40 freelancers that we had worked with on our first business that were interested in being a part of starting this company up. And so the way that we did it was we put those four products out. We did a lot of reaching out through social media. We went to different job boards of people looking for different freelancers and just kind of hacking our way through to find those first people that would be interested in our credibility and interested in what we were trying to do. And we found that a lot of people were first interested in those classes. They were interested in the consulting and the services, not necessarily first very interested in the online hiring platform. But what that allowed us to do was we were able to bring those people in, show them a great experience, prove that we're credible and that we had knowledge in the e-commerce industry. And then we were also able to then tell them about the online hiring service that we were offering as well. So that they kind of came in for the class or the service or the consulting. They learned from us. They saw that we could add value to their business. And then we kind of told them about, hey, we also have these awesome freelancers that could help free up more of your time and allow you to keep growing the business. And so that's really the strategy that we took as we were first starting the company.
Wow, that's fascinating. And it's fascinating because it's different. The outcome of it is different, because I thought when you said we have the four different sort of tiers or things we were offering, that you were going to say everybody just wanted to hire our vetted people. But you're like, no, actually they didn't. But then you sort of worked it into that. Yeah,
it was interesting. It was cool to see that, and I think things would have changed if we had only gone with the hiring platform. I think the disconnect there was just that it's a little harder to explain as you're first talking to a business owner, especially when you're just a young startup that just has a website and is trying to make it happen. So I think having the consulting and getting that first contact and making those relationships was a huge help.
Right. And now you guys are strictly a platform for hiring.
That's correct. Yep.
Right. Excellent. So at this point, several years into the business, or a couple years in, I believe?
Yep. About a year and a half, year and 8 months. Mm-hmm. Yep.
How has it, like, what's sort of a main customer acquisition channel you're using today?
Sure. So the biggest customer acquisition channel that we have right now is our referral program. So we have it set up where if you're a current client or a current worker and you refer someone to our network, we pay you 50 cents for every single hour that client bills forever, for as long as they're on the platform. So that's been a really huge recommendation engine for us, because clients are actually seeing that when they refer people and those people enjoy the service, they're actually getting a good amount of money for making that referral. So that's been really helpful for us. And the second thing that's built off of that is we've built good relationships with influencers within the e-commerce world. So big e-commerce consultants who have a lot of clients and people selling on Amazon or other marketplaces, or who have their own Shopify store. and we're giving them, free trials to give FreeeUp a shot and make sure that they like it, so then they can then recommend it out to their customers as well.
Wow. Nice. I love the referral program for
Mhm.
hourly based workers.
Yeah,
That's a huge incentive because you're right. 50 cents an hour
right.
for all the people you recommend. That could potentially be huge for people.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we're set up to pay out over $100,000 this year just in referral earnings. So it's definitely, we put a lot into it, but it also brings us a lot of business, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. All right, Connor, I have one final question I want to wrap up with for you, if I could.
Hmm.
It's this idea I'm working with calling the entrepreneurial gap. So, as entrepreneurs, it seems like from the hundreds I've talked to now that we always personally project our successes into the future. And no matter what we accomplish, and from the outside, what it looks like we're accomplishing, we always put our successes in the future, meaning that in 3 months, when your book is absolutely successful, or in 6 months, when you stand on that stage, whatever it is you want, we both know that seconds before you hit that, you're going to set 5 or 10 bigger goals into the future. And so, like walking towards the horizon, the further you walk, the further away it always, always, always gets. So I would love it right now if you could stop, Connor, and turn and look behind you, sort of this whole sort of journey you've been on, the highs, the lows, the wins, and the losses. But tell me how you feel about all of it up until today.
That's a great question. I love it. I'm a person who learns from every single thing that he does. I've learned through, some of my mentors really, that you have to really own your story. You have to love what you've done, whether it be your successes or your failures, and make sure that you have a positive outlook on how that's built you into the person you are today. So in terms of this question, I really appreciate the life that I've been able to build and the people I've been able to meet, and that really comes into a lot of the work that I do today, and how I interact with people. I always have those experiences in mind, and I know how they impacted me personally and also professionally.
Beautiful answer, man. Own your story. I love it. So we've got to talk now about the business and the book in passing. Now it's time. I would love it if you could sort of give the pitch to the listener about the book and then where they can track it down.
Of course. So the book is called Free Up Your Business: 50 Secrets to Bootstrap $1 Million Companies. And the book is a compilation of 50 lessons that myself and my business partner, Nathan, have learned along our journey of building these two multi-million-dollar companies. It goes into managing your finances. It talks about how you can strategically plan. It talks about a lot of our hiring philosophies and how we've been able to build great teams. And then at the end, it talks a lot about making sure that your customer has an amazing experience so that they want to come back to work with your company more. And I think the biggest part of the book that people will enjoy is that it includes a lot of these stories, a lot of these experiences that we had while we were in college, and first getting out of college, and then growing as business partners together, and getting to the point to where we are today. So it covers a lot of what you were just talking about, where we're looking back on our past and understanding how those stories impacted who we are today. So if you'd like to grab the book, you can find it at Amazon.com. Just go ahead and search Free Up Your Business. And then you can also find it at freeup.com/Free Up Your Business. And it's available in paperback, ebook, and also audiobook.
Very cool. Very cool. Free Up Your Business. I was just going to ask you if it's spelled FREEE, but it's not.
Yeah, just two E's on this one.
So listeners do not understand this at all. But the company is FreeeUp, which is FREEE up.com, which I'll also link to in the show notes. So at freeup.com/free up your business, I'll find that link for everyone and put it into the show notes for you so it's easy for you to find, as well as that Amazon link, or you can just type it straight into your phones or your computers. Plus, since we talked about Nathan, and at the end I actually called Connor Nathan by accident, I'm going to track down his episode from July of 2016. That's Connor's business partner. So you can also give that a listen and see sort of the other side of this business if you would like. So freeup.com, ConnorGillivan.com is Connor's personal website where he writes and blogs quite regularly. So you can check him out over there, as well as at Connor Gillivan on Twitter if you want to follow up with any questions, or just tell him how you enjoyed the show. All right, Connor, thanks so much for taking the time, man. Thanks for sharing so openly. And please just keep doing what you're doing because it's awesome to watch, man.
Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. And I hope people were able to, take a little bit away from this and apply it to their lives.
Just before we get into tracking down today's hack, I would love to tell you once again about designcrowd.com. DesignCrowd is a website that helps entrepreneurs and small business owners like you and myself outsource, or as they call it, crowdsource, custom graphic work, logos, and web design from designers around the world. DesignCrowd has more than 550,000 designers right now from over 100 countries, ready to help you and your business with any creative and design projects you might have. Check out designcrowd.com/hack. That's DESIGNCROWD, designcrowd.com/hack for a special VIP offer for Hack the Entrepreneur listeners. Well, that was a lot of fun. It as much as I enjoy the Going Deep episodes, like yesterday's episode, the Going Deep that I did with Sean D'Souza on dartboard pricing and pricing your product or service, as much as I absolutely, truly do love those, I miss the point in the conversation that we're now at. The point in the show, I should say. The point where I get to go back and I get to listen through to the conversation like you do. I get to go through and I get to search for something that I might have missed while I was doing the interview and while I was engaged in the conversation. So that's where we are now. I'm going back and I listened through to the conversation I had with Connor. And then I went back and I listened through to the conversation again. That second time through the conversation, listening to it as that third person like you get to, there was something I had missed. And this is something different than what I normally look for. This is very, very step-by-step how-to and very, very clear and so very, very useful. So much so that it was indeed the one thing that Connor said. Did you get it? Did you find it? Let's do it. Let's find the hack.
So I used LinkedIn a lot. What I was doing is I kind of created a demographic, or I guess like a profile of the person I was interested in. It was usually going to be someone who had already built their own business, was, maybe 10 to 20 years older than me, had a lot of good experiences, who was in the local area, and who I could find on LinkedIn. So I would find these people, I'd identify them, I would try to connect with them, I'd send them a personal message, explaining why I was reaching out to them and what I was interested in doing. And my biggest thing was I would just try to get in a one-on-one, in-person experience with them. So I would ask them to go out and grab lunch, or can I grab you a coffee, whatever the reason was. And not every person responded, but for the people that did, it ended up being really great conversations that I was able to learn from. And then my next ask was always, hey, this was a great conversation. I'd love to keep in touch. Do you have someone else that that you think would be a good fit for, helping me grow my businesses as well? And that one ask at the end of every conversation always helped, and it kind of spiraled to all these other people that I wouldn't have met just by finding people on LinkedIn.
And that's the hack. Connor. I love this. So many people share on the show about how they use mentors, how they use coaches, whatever it may be. Coaches are one thing. I mean, you can find them and then you can hire them. Mentors are a different sort of breed altogether. And I love how you have used them successfully to grow your businesses and yourself personally. And I love how you shared this, the step-by-step. So here, right, you went to LinkedIn, you found the profile, you figured out who exactly it was you want. You can't just talk to anyone. Just know who it is you want. They own a business, they're local, and they've achieved something ahead of you, something that you want to achieve. So they can, in fact, help you. Then you try and connect on a personal level. Set up that one-on-one coffee or lunch. And then that final ask was, this conversation was great. I really enjoyed this. Do you have someone else you know who could help me with my business? And use that sort of effect to, when you track down somebody and you finally make that connection on LinkedIn, then use that to spread it out to other people. People who run businesses generally know other people who run businesses. Successful people typically hang out with other successful people. This is it. Yeah, I've been asked this so many times. How do you get a mentor? How do you find a mentor? How do you start having a mentorship? This is an actionable way that you can start doing today. You need to really, truly think about that first step, which is figuring out the profile of the person who can help you, the ideal person to help you. And the way Connor does it, I love it, is who's somebody 5 or 10 years ahead of you who has achieved or accomplished what you are trying to accomplish. That's the person you need as a mentor. Then follow these steps and track them down. Connor, thank you so much for sharing throughout the episode, but thank you so much for sharing this bit here, the hack. All right, that was a lot of fun. HackTheEntrepreneur.com. Stop over there. I'll have Connor Gillivan's show notes up over there with links to his book, the book FreeeUp, plus his business partners episode, Nathan Hirsch. It's been a lot of fun. If you head over there really soon to the website, you can see the site as it stands today. Within the next week, it will be completely transformed. It's going to be awesome. It is awesome now, but it's going to be new and not just a subtle change. It's going to be almost the exact opposite of what it is today. How's that for a cliffhanger? All right. It's been fun. Thank you so much for stopping by. I will not take any of more of your time right now, but I would love to see you stop by the website, get onto the email list. Why not? It's a great place to be. All right. It's been fun. Thank you so very much. And please, until next time, keep hacking the entrepreneur.